In Season 2 of the Nested Healing Podcast, From Surviving to Thriving, we will take you with us on our journey to the many nourishing lands of healing. With a new guest for each episode, we will get to embark on each of their healing journeys, with their curiosity being, what challenges did they face, and just how did they manage to come up on the other side? From self-love and acceptance, all the way to dance and movement, we will explore the myriad of healing components shining in each of our guests' stories. How can we relate and apply this to our own lives? How can we brighten our light through a dark tunnel? Stay with us on our beautiful deep dive into healing.
Hello, welcome back to the Nested Healing Podcast. I am your host, Jess. Welcome to this season. Today we have the wonderful Roxana. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Roxana Segovia-Beltran.
Awesome. We're going over personal healing journeys today. Where for you does yours begin? Like, where would you consider that?
Yeah, I would definitely say that when I was in college, I graduated from Cal Poly, and my major was gender, ethnic, and multicultural studies, and the major itself was really very much of a healing aspect for me because it was studying myself, but also the world at the same time, and how like my story connects to the broader story of the world. Um, my family comes from Mexico and El Salvador. My mom, she came undocumented to this country when she was 13 years old, and she crossed the border as a young child, sent to take care of her family. You know, we had like 10 kids, and she was born dirt poor, living off mango trees in Michoacan. And just getting to college was like a whole thing in itself, right? You know, it was the first from my mom's side of the family to get into college. And when I became a GEMS major, I learned so much about why my mom had to make that journey. And there's a lot of, even now and what's happening now, about like undocumented people being deported and being, for many years, being called um some kind of criminal or something, right? It's like, oh, well, so like if you're dying in your country and you're looking for something else, like you're a criminal for trying to do that. But then the more I think the implications are even stronger when you think about why. Like, why is it that people in Mexico are starving? Like, who like Mexico is like this beautiful, lush country. Like, why don't they have enough food? It's like, well, someone is like stripping them of that, right? United States. So, like, why doesn't it make sense that someone can go where their food is going? You know? And food has just always been really important to me. Like, if you ever want to con me, just invite me to a food event and I will be there because I cannot deny food. And in college, I started gardening, and it was very much a hobby. I had no idea what I was doing, even though my grandfather owned like an avocado farm and check on, like I had no experience of that. But I just knew that like the first time I planted a seed, it was a tomato seed, like something opened up inside of me that I had never felt before that. And connections came to me that I had to observe through the land that couldn't have been taught to me academically. And we had a very small space. I mean, I've always been very much an urban gardener. And the first year I gardened, like we had so much food. Like I remember just like this little tomato plant growing like 200 tomatoes. And it was one of the first times I had really witnessed abundance, especially coming from a poverty-stricken family, right? We didn't have a lot, but seeing how like one tomato plant can give you like what, like 50 to 100 seeds, and then every one of those seeds can be even like maybe 200 more tomatoes. It's like that's abundance. That's nature gives us what we need, but we just have to be open to it. And at the time I had a friend, he was also a GEMS major, and he had gotten some Hopi corn. And Hopi is a tribe in Arizona. And it was like this blue corn, and the stalks grow like 6 feet long. And he was like, "Oh, just plant it." And he told me something really beautiful that was told to him on how to grow it. And he said, "Corn likes to suffer." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, just like don't give it water for a while, and then right when it's about to die, just like give it water, and it'll just like bloom. And I was just like, okay. And I did that, and I couldn't believe how much corn I had. Like it was amazing. And after that, like I had like this parallel education where, I went through with my studies, but then I also just kept gardening. And through there, I went in different ways in terms of like how I continued. At one point, I wanted to become like a midwife, and I became a doula, and I worked with mothers, and that was a very much a beautiful experience, like watching babies being born into the world, and I absolutely loved it. And I felt like there was a lot of growth and healing in that, right? Because I would watch life like come into fruition over and over, and like I felt so much gratitude for that. Um, but yeah, I think that it started around there. If I don't want to get too ahead of myself.
Honest, that's beautiful. That's awesome and amazing. I can relate kind of to that in like a really interesting way where it's my great grandparents were migrant farmers. So they came up all up and down, and same with my grandma, up all up and down and like farm. So for me, gardening is very like connected to the ground and nature. Um, and I like really respond to that with you and like your explanation stuff. It kind of, I don't know why, I just kind of want to dig into the dirt of it, as you would say. Um, and um, I like, I guess for you, what was kind of like what plant I feel like either represents it, that kind of time period of like growth for you, or you feel very connected to? Obviously, you mentioned the tomato a lot, so is it that or is it like a different one?
Well, so it's been a while that I've been gardening, right? I was in my early 20s, now I'm like turning 40. So it's been, almost 20 years of gardening. And what I try to do is I try to plant something new every season, something I've never tried before. And I feel like with every plant, it's like a story. And just like how we have our stories, and we have like like our ways of being, right? Like some plants like water, some plants like to be more dehydrated, some plants like sun, some don't, right? So then when I plant this plant, like I'm understanding it, and like I'm building a relationship. And I think that's what's really integral, is that when we build relationship with the plants, we really understand them, but then we also can make connections to ourselves, just how we can with our friends and our family, right? And I don't think there's one plant that like I love the most, but I feel like every plant has taught me something beautiful. But I'll speak to tomatillo because last year, uh, like every season, like every summer season, like I have like my star crop where I was like, oh yeah, I got a lot of that one. And last year was tomatillo, and that was one of the first times I had ever really worked with tomatillo. And tomatillo is related to tomato, right? And I just found it amazing how resilient it was, because last year the tomato crops did not do well, especially where I am in Maryland. We have a lot of humidity, and blight comes into play, and like they all start dying. But the tomatillo just kept going. I mean, leaves, like it was like one of the first ones to give fruit and one of the last at the end of the season. And I think I get inspired, right? It's like how is it that this plant just keeps going and the other ones are like, oh, it's too wet. And this one's like, I don't care if it's wet. I'm gonna take advantage. I'm gonna keep growing. I'm gonna, and it's beautiful and it tastes good, right? I mean, I actually like tomatillos more than tomatoes, to be honest. Um,
I agree.
yeah.
I
So yeah, and every plant is different like that. And I really enjoy like finding new varieties and like figuring out like what makes them tick and understanding them. And I think that's the value and what I've learned in every plant.
That's awesome and beautiful. And
Oh.
I don't know, sometimes I'll just go like, it's just because I'm like, yes, that's awesome and amazing. If you notice me doing that, I just want to let you know.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I don't even know what to ask. I'm just like reveling in that, what you said a lot. And it's kind of like taking it in because like I feel like I think humans like in I think in our society today, as much as humans like we're supposed to be interconnected, we should be socializing and stuff. We have created it being very individualistic. Um, but I feel like your connection to plants and the way you're talking about them and having like their own personalities and how like you're like and we're all interconnected in that way. I feel like that's there's like this huge connection in my mind that like that's how people are too. You know, it's like we are individuals and we all have our like quirky little personalities, but at the same time we're all interconnected. Like similar to like how roots are and how plants can like communicate with themselves and everything and the ones around them. Have you found like sometimes you bring your plant knowledge back into your people knowledge? Because I know you're a garden doula, and, and I'm sure that also like incorporates talking to people and helping them through things and everything. So do you find that kind of that crossroads or that intersection? Do you run into?
Definitely. And yeah, thank you for mentioning garden doula. That is a new endeavor that I am taking on. And yeah, I mean, I think for me, like garden doula was a connection to me being like a doula and a gardener, and I wanted to like mesh that, right? Especially like being like a gems major, like with gems, like you don't graduate like with a degree that's going to give you like the job. Like I'm not going to graduate and become an engineer. Like you have to figure it out, and that's like really scary. And that's what often people question you, like, what are you gonna do with your life? And I'm like, okay, 15 years later, I figured it out, but like it was a journey, right? And I think for me, I want people to understand that connection can come from anywhere, right? Like we all are interconnected. And I think after COVID and with all this technology, like people are have become fearful of one another. Like I still feel that. Like people just are kind of like, I know we don't have COVID anymore, but I don't know if I can talk to you anymore. Like it's weird, right? And I think plants can feel safer for some people, right? But then it's still scary because it's like I don't want to kill it. Like, and I think to be like a gardener, it requires like a certain amount of discipline, consistency, relationship building, and like a drive and the persistence to like want to connect and resilience because it's if it's like 90 degrees outside, like yeah, like nobody wants to be out there, but we have to take care of the plants, right? And it does require like a lot of like deep inner um reflection to really do it. And I think that's where people get kind of stuck because they're like I can't do this. And it's like, well, like let's take it slow. And part of what garden doula is to help people with that transition. Because a doula in itself, what I believe, is a person that helps other people with transitions in terms of into motherhood or into like a death experience, right? So where I'm trying to go with this, the concept that I want to introduce is the idea that we can transition into gardeners, and it takes time. It's a process. It's a process to become a parent. It's a process to go through death, and it's a process to reconnect with nature to grow food the way our indigenous ancestors did. And I do believe the idea of like an indigenous individual comes from all cultures around the world, right? Anywhere around the world, if you go far back enough, it was people that depended on the land, and we're far removed from that. And then look what's happening. And I do think we need to go back to that. Like healing of the land, healing of the soil is the healing of ourselves. And it's been proven time and time again. Like if we put our efforts back into the soil can rejuvenate very quickly. And I do think that it can rejuvenate us and ourselves. And I think with my own personal journey, I find that like every year I walk into a garden and I take on the task of like caring for like hundreds of plants, and at the end I come out with some kind of success. Like I feel like I've grown as a person because I've witnessed the growth, and I took on growth with the plants, if that makes sense. And I do believe that that happens with people. Like when I see people that like really take on their gardens, like you could see like that accomplishment, like, yeah, like I really did it. And it could just be like one little plant, but like that one little plant can give so much back, not just like the sustenance and the food, but it provides the relationship that I think that we're needing in this world, that maybe we can't do it quite with people, but maybe we can start with nature and then kind of build it into a community. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that was also a golf clap. Like, that was amazing. It kind of led into my next kind of thought and question, but also kind of answered it in a way, I feel like, which was like for me, um, I'm a big nature person. I love send me into the middle of the woods and I'll bear grills it. Like I'm very I'll do my best and like I love it and everything. And for me it's also a way of like connecting with my ancestry and connecting with like those who came before. Um just because like gardening and nature in itself and plants and everything was like something that was very fundamental and like through my family's like oral tradition, right? Like we create a lot of food and we gather around food. As like I feel like many Mexican homes are, food is a big thing. It's where everything happens. So even just like past eating, like the growing of crops, I feel like connects with that sure exactly where my question, but do you kind of like relate to that and like the overall? That was kind of a bad phrase, but
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like my mom being from Mexico, like, I mean, she made food, and like, it's always like too much, right? It's like, Mom, like, why are you making so much food? Like, there are not that many. But like, oh, you see la comida, and so, like, and yeah, like, I definitely connect with that. And I think in a deeper sense for me, I think the origins of food is something that I began to study, um, even after graduating. I homeschooled my kids a bit when they were, COVID times, and I decided I really wanted to focus like our own ancestry and like focusing on what they probably wouldn't get when they were in the public schools, which they are in now, but I wanted to give them like, I guess, an alternative education. So we really studied like the Mexicas, which is the Aztecs, what they actually named themselves. And the Purapechas, which are like in Michoacan, that's kind of like the indigenous tribe that like is still there and was very resilient, and that they would like fight off the Mexicas, and they're one of the few tribes that like really like stood their ground even now, which is really interesting. And just like corn, right? Like in the Mesoamerican culture, like corn was equivalent to love. Like like we are the people of the corn, like that it's that deep, right? And of course I love my tortillas, I love my pozole, like I always ate that and I enjoyed it, but I think it became really different when I first grew corn. And like I have corn like all over my house, okay? And I also made like a corn mother and I wrapped her and I have her on my altar and she's like the representation of like protection for our home. And I think there's like this step that a lot of people miss when it comes to like connection to food is that it's one thing to grow and one thing to have it on your food, but then there's this bridge of processing it and like tending to it. And I think that's a really important piece that in indigenous cultures, that was like a time of gathering, right? Like, let's say like you want to make your tortillas and you have like 100 pounds of corn. Like, how do you get there? Well, the community gets together, they shuck the corn, they put the lime, and it's this whole process, right? And those gathering moments, I think a lot of is missed in this culture, right? I think we're there where we like eat the food together that we got from the grocery store. But I think it's really beautiful and deep to go from like the plant into the processing, into like the preserving and then using and then but saving some of it to grow again. Like there's this whole like lineage of process that when connected into it, like I think like is wholesome. And I will admit, like, I'm not always 100% there. Like, I still live in an urban area where I don't have everything that I could, right, to get there. But when there have been times where I am able to do that whole process, I feel like it's like a true connection to like what is and what can be when it comes to our food.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's like incredible, and it's incredible that you're able to like kind of go through that process. I think it is in a way like in a way dying because of how capitalistic our society is and how like fast paced everything is. Um, and I guess kind of where I guess I'm kind of leading to now is also like um obviously it creates a slowdown, but the slowdown is so beneficial. Do you find it that way, or am I just imagining? Am I just speaking?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when I have those moments when I can slow down, it's beautiful, right? Like, um, so at one point I grew amaranth and yeah, amaranth. And amaranth is one of those plants that has a really interesting story. At one point, well, okay, so long ago, that was one of those plants that in Mesoamerica it was considered like sacred, very sacred because it's just the little seeds itself. Like it gives you a good amount of protein, good amount of fat. Like it's like a survival food. And so the indigenous were like, oh yeah, like this is sacred to us. So then when the colonizers came in Spain, they banned it. They're like, oh no, you love this too much. Like this is like your fake god or whatever. So in order to continue to cultivate that plant, like it was very much underground, right? And it was like this like underground process. So when I first grew amaranth and like I learned about it and I taught workshops on it and I told the story, like it became like a really beautiful story. But then when I actually went into the process of like getting the seed, I mean, it is a long process. And I did it all by hand. And at the time I worked at a food forest, so we grew a lot and we did the drying and then like to actually like remove the seed, we kind of had just to like sit there for like an hour, just shake the seed, right? And at the end of it, like it's just there's something so peaceful about it. It's so meditative. Like I love saving seed. It's a beautiful process. But I do wish that I could just do that all the time because we still live in this society where like it's like how much time do I have for this? So there's times I've had been able to go through the whole process and it feels really beautiful. But then there's times when like I'm met with reality of the world that I live in, that I still have all these other responsibilities and that, but I still dream that like one day that like that will be it. Like I would be very happy if all I had to do was collect my amaranth and just save it with my family and store it away and then just have food, and that was it. But like we're just not there yet. It's just not the world at this point. Because it takes a lot of hands. That's one thing. Like if you only have like two people, like, but like if you have like 50, okay, yeah, you can do it. But like, where are you gonna find those 50 people that are that committed?
Yeah. I get what you mean. Yeah. That's awesome though. Also, Amber, I applaud you for doing that because I know they're it's like quinoa. They're tiny.
They're tiny.
They're
Yeah.
tiny. Yeah. Have you tried the popcorn made out of it? Sorry, this is just me being curious.
I've heard about it. I did hear about it, but I never got around to it. Although I did grow popcorn seed variety, and I have it, and I've been holding it. Like I have about 3 or 4 kernels, like whole kernels, and I'm just holding it for something special. And I'm like, my family loves popcorn, but I'm like, I don't want to just make it on a Monday. Like I feel like we need to celebrate this. So I'm waiting for the right moment to like pop it, and then we'll eat it together.
So they're very intertwined for you, but at the same time, do you ever find like there's frustration obviously and everything? How do you deal with that, I guess? Like the frustration of um healing or the frustration of gardening.
Yeah, I mean, gardening is not easy. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, so I'll go back into like 4 years ago when I became a professional gardener. So before that, I was just an at-home gardener, just like, oh, I'm gonna go into my garden, and then I decided that like I wanted to do this profession around 2021. I was like, you know what? Like this is it. I'm gonna figure out a way to like grow food and like make it my professional career, right?
Mhm.
So I became a permaculture designer, which is like it's a philosophy that focuses on the indigenous philosophy approach to gardening, right? It's a design system. And I got my first job. I was very excited. I got a job as managing a vegetable garden and a food forest. It was 10 acres. I was like, oh my God. And I'm doing it and I'm loving it. And then I get sick, but like I can't get out of bed sick. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, I could not even fathom the exhaustion that I felt because it is not easy working in nature, right? Like when you are exposed to everything and you have no idea what you're being exposed to, right? My body was not used to it. And I was very lucky to have a very, very good doctors. I sought out natural medicine, naturopathic medicine, and all I know that it was somewhere in between Lyme disease and like long COVID, somewhere along the way. But I did get the medicine that I needed, and I'm very grateful for that. But it has been an uphill battle, like, and I think that's what healing is. It's a long uphill battle. It's a climb. Like it's not like a band-aid that someone can just put on you. You're like, oh, you're okay now. Like, no, like it has to come from somewhere very deep to like keep going in this world. And I think especially with a lot of people, we're feeling that. Like this is hard, right? And there's so much that I don't know. And that's one of the first things I've learned when I really began to professionally garden. It's like there's so many plants in the world and then like I probably will never remember all the names because there's too many, right? And then getting into the growing trees, like trees are a whole nother beast, right? And I think for me, like I did in the beginning have a bit of imposter syndrome, right? Like, like, am I really good enough? Can I do this? Like, am I gonna really like be a true gardener? Like, look at that guy. He's been there for 20 years and he knows everything, right? Like comparing myself, doing all that stuff that just is not helpful. And I think somewhere along the way, I really had to like sit down with myself and say, like, I need to own like my knowledge and like my story and my experience, and I need to just do it on my pace. The more I compare myself to that person, the more I'm just driving myself into like a wedge of like insecurity and like I'm never gonna be good enough, right? And I think because every season is a little bit different and I'm always take having to take on a new thing. Like this season, it was like the most simplest thing, the irrigation system. Oh my God. Like, and that's one of those things, right? Like, I'm a gardener. Like, why are you telling me I need to put together an irrigation system, right? But like, it's part of the process. Your plants need water, then the rain's not available. Like, what are you gonna do? So like, there's always something that I have to figure out, and it's always like deeper than what I knew before. But I think there's a lot of self-acceptance that has to come into play in order to really honor my own story. Because it's never gonna become easier. I think it's gonna flow with like I think it was like this, like a wave that was like kind of like, this is too much. But then it's just kind of like a maybe a softer wave. But there's always gonna be the ups and downs. But I think like that's what this has taught me, that like it's okay for it to be hard. I just have to like learn to like learn from it and understand it and then just move on with it. And that's all I can do.
And then I'm sure it's like taking you a long time to get there too. Like it's not like an easy task. Also, do you my follow-up question, I had two, which was one, is this is not an easy task? And like did it took you a long time, I'm guessing. But then the second one I have is also like, do you feel like because you have to go layer by layer in gardening, like you're starting at like level one baby gardener to like level 10 master and everything, like do you feel when you go down those levels it helps like you expand a lot more, or do you think it's like more so like it helps you, how do you say it? Like become, does it help you personally become better and able to dig deeper inside yourself? Do you think it just helps you dig deeper in the dirt? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely within myself. I mean, it really is an expansive experience that comes into play with my own personal expansiveness. I mean, I think, for instance, in order for me to like have the strength to be a gardener, like I really had to like strengthen my body, right? Like, I mean, the first month, like my back was hurting, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this if my back hurts. So like, since I've started gardening, like I really like have a pretty consistent yoga practice, about 5 to 7 days a week. I wake up, I do my yoga, I do my stretches. My diet has changed extensively. Like I really only eat sugar on weekends. Just like little things that like I had to do to make my body more resilient to like what it was facing every day, because the regular like sitting around all day eating junk food, like I can't do that and be a gardener because my body will just reject everything. And even just like dealing with allergies. I mean, in Maryland, allergies are horrible. So I take a lot of turmeric, which really helps with inflammation. But then that's why I don't eat sugar, because that helps with the inflammation. Like I really have to like make physical changes. And I think um emotionally, like I kind of, I don't know, it's interesting. Like sometimes I feel like when it rains, like I want to cry too. You know, like I feel like I have to like go with the motions of like what weather is, especially like being in 4 seasons. It's like in the winter time, that's when I go in and I go into like this shelter period and I finally get to rest and like I become like more internal. And then the spring comes, I feel like I spring up and I'm like, oh, okay, time to garden. But then also like it could be kind of like anxiety inducing because I'm like, everything's happening. So then I have to like learn to like calm myself down. And in the summer, it's just like, oh. It's just I don't know. Summer just happens so fast. I'm just in the garden every day. I'm just running around. And you know, so I feel like I go through those cycles with nature and I really have to be like in tune with myself in order to do the job.
I I can totally see and understand that. And I think my next question is like, if okay, how do I want to phrase this? You having experienced the like being so to me that it reads as like you're very in tune with like nature and like the cycles of weather and like and everything. Like you're very open to me is how it reads. Um, would you have advice for someone who may be like starting on this journey and wants to start getting into gardening and like self-healing and everything? What would you suggest to them? So like where would you maybe suggest to try to start?
Yeah. So I would say to first start believing in yourself. Because I find that like I met a lot of people because I've taught a lot of workshops and in terms of like gardening, like I always hear a lot of stories. And the common story is like, oh my God, I would love to garden. But like I have a black thumb. I kill everything. Nothing will grow in my arm, in my hands. And it's like, oh, okay, okay, okay. Let's take a step back now. It's like I think if we're going to enter in this journey of like taking on a plant or taking on a garden, I think we first have to believe that we can do that, right? And then from there, just like, I think it's important to find comfort in the discomfort, right? I think that's where expansiveness comes from. And it is uncomfortable to like grow something because all of a sudden like you're taking on responsibility for this plant because all of these plants, especially garden plants, like all of our standard vegetables, they're domesticated, right? It's like having a dog or a cat. Like if you put them out, like they will very much suffer if you don't take care of them. So I think like having that understanding that like, okay, you're taking on a plan, believe that you can do it. And then I think it's just a matter of like just being there, right? I think sometimes like the issue happens is that I think we're very inconsistent in this world where we start something and then we're like, oh, all I want to do is have so much fun. And then we just kind of forget about it. And then we're like, oh yeah, I had a plan, but I forgot about it, right? I think like finding that drive, finding that reason of like why is this important to me? Like why do I want this to live? And why do I believe I can do it? I think there is like some self-talk that's needed to get there. And I think just finding a way to like enjoy it, like find a relationship with the plant and get some help. I think that's the biggest thing. Like ask for help. And I think because we are in this very like individualistic society. We're like, I'm gonna do it myself. Like that's not helpful. Like just get away from that. Like if it's too hard, like get a garden doula, right? But if I'm not in your area, find a friend that can teach you, right? Like ask your family, ask your neighbor, ask someone. I think the biggest mistake many people make in this world is like they don't ask for help. They feel like I'm a failure if I have to ask for help. And that's really not the case. And I think that becomes more beautiful when people can garden together because I truly believe that no garden was meant to be tended for it by itself. And I think one of the saddest things that I see is when I see someone that's like depleted because all they do is put time in their garden and nobody ever helped them. And then they almost feel like a slave to their garden. And it's like, well, just ask for help. And, it's hard to ask for help, but like, I've been very lucky that like because I work in like I work at HCC, it's a college and it's a garden that all the food that's grown goes to the student pantry. So we have a lot of volunteers and it's makes it fun, right? Like I have 20 people come in and then we all have our tasks and we do it together. And then work gets done, right? I mean, that's the fun part of gardening. But like if I was forced to garden by myself every single day for the rest of my life, I wouldn't probably be very happy as a gardener. Yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing. Like believe in yourself, ask for help, and just learn to find comfort in that discomfort of it and then grow with it.
Wonderfully phrased, and also like I think that's an incredible response. And then I kind of have like a second part to that too. Oh, third part, I guess, because that was like a two-part question too. Which is like people on their healing journeys and like maybe starting that aspect. Maybe they don't want to, they don't feel they're ready for like garden. They feel like they need to work on themselves. Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say get a therapist.
Yeah.
Well, I think for me personally, like I first started therapy 2019. It was like right before um the COVID, yeah. And it was a really hard time in my life. I was kind of like falling apart, right? And not even the garden could save me at that point. Like I really needed help, right? And I feel like uh, especially like in Latino culture, I will say, like there's a huge stigma towards like talking about your feelings, right? It's more like, oh, you shouldn't be talking about your feelings. You should just put up with it and just stop complaining, right? And that's not gonna help anyone. But I think talking it through with people is so important, right? I think when I finally sat down with someone and like kind of like unpacked myself, like I really understood myself and it took many years, right? I mean, it takes a long time. We have to be consistent. Like we have to stick to like what we want and we can't expect fast results because there's no band-aid for healing. It is an uphill climb that is very uncomfortable because we have to face things that maybe we can't even see within ourselves. We all have blind spots. And when someone is showing you your blind spot, that can be very like offensive. Like, how dare you? Right. And it's like, no, it's true. Like, you have this problem. And it's like, oh, I guess I do. Right. Like, um, I also really love community circles. I'm part of a lot of women's circles, a part of a lot of mother circles. I first started circling in LA when I was living over there, and I've since have started circles or just jumped into circles, and now I'm in a circle for people that circle keeper. I don't know, I'm in a lot of circles, but and I think that's a beautiful thing. I think healing can be very much like the individual one-on-one. I think that's very helpful, but like when you're in a group of people and we're all like talking about issues that we have and we find resonance in one another and synchronicity, like we realize how normal it is to be in suffering, right? It's normal to be insecure. It's normal to like feel like you're not good enough or whatever, right? Like we all have that. And I think the more we normalize it and accept it within ourselves, like it becomes a lot less shameful. Because like why should we be ashamed of what is normal in us? Like what's wrong with like not feeling good enough? I mean, obviously like it feels horrible, but like if we all don't feel like we're not good enough, maybe that means we are good enough. Maybe it's just like a mentality that was like given to us, but we really don't need to have it.
Yeah,
Right?
no, I get you. And I guess kind of wrapping up because we're getting close on time, which I 100% agree with you on. If you feel like you need help, get some help. But wrapping up, and I guess kind of a final question I have for you is um like what do you hope you can spread through your healing and helping others heal through the work that you do using garden doula and everything like that? Like what is your hopes? I want to say.
Oh, I have a lot of hope. I think I will say that I really feel like I started Garden Doula as a source of hope for myself for the world because this world is very complicated. And unfortunately, the trend is not going to get better. Like, it's just not, right? So I feel like I needed hope for myself. Like, I felt like I needed to build something that I felt could provide something beautiful, right? And like the biggest picture that I can imagine for Garden Doula is that I truly believe that people should garden just as much as they drive. Like, as much as like people are getting their licenses and driving their cars and everybody needs to find a way to get on the road, I think like we need that many people gardening in their yards. I think that's what gives me hope. The idea that people can just go back to the land, look at the soil, and heal with the soil, and that itself can build regeneration for communities and air and water and cleanliness that like we don't have. And and I really hope that people can do it together, right? I think that this individualistic society that we're in is just not working, and we need to find a way to get back into being able to look at one another, and maybe we can do it in the garden if we can't do it like in other spaces. For me it's a hope that like we can come back to our indigenous practices and ways and understandings and like find a way to heal with Mother Nature. I think that's in its simplest terms. I think that's what I would love to see.